Good morning, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal on a very wet Wednesday morning. But the reward for wet is 9 degrees, which translates to 48. So, that's how we look at it. It's either going to be cold or it's going to be wet. And if it's going to be wet, it's not going to be cold. So we like that here. I'm hoping that you all had a good day. Wow. So that is how you have a major accident. Anyway, I hope you all had a... Oh, yeah. Hang on a second. There's a point there, by the way, for those of you who've got squeaky windshield wipers. Just adding a little bit of soap to my windshield wiper liquid really has helped. But what really makes the difference is if it's weather where I need my windshield wipers, I actually make sure that I spray my windshield and clean it right at the beginning. In other words, I don't just turn my windshield wipers on and expect them to clean the dirt. And that's telling me my windshield liquid is low. I've got more in the trunk here somewhere. So just know that if you've got squeaky windshield wipers, if it's raining, start by spraying your windshield with the windshield washer and really give it a good spray to start with until they stop squeaking. That's what I found. So that's an important thing to know. Okay, having said that, see that? Wonderful. Having said that, I wanted to say that I heard with some sadness last night that, or yesterday, that Robin and Lou's fur baby Shadow passed, and obviously we're all very sad to hear that. But as a vet once told me, if you don't want to have these things happen, don't have pets. And I know that sounds very cruel today, but I always remind myself of that. Because I adore dogs is because I adore dogs. And I'm going to have them, and part of having a dog, unfortunately, is losing them. And believe you me, you all know that I know the pain of that, because you've seen me go through it with Bean. So, for all of you who've got sick puppies, just my heart goes out to you. I know how difficult it is, and especially if you are strapped financially, you have to make some terrible decisions that you shouldn't have to make. And if I've got anybody out there that's got a potload full of money, there's part of me that says, we need to have a international trust fund somewhere that we can have available to vets for procedures on dogs where the owners don't have enough money to look after their dogs. Well, there's the other side of it that says if you don't have enough money to look after your dogs, should you be having a dog? It's difficult, isn't it? I know that one of the questions they ask at my local pound is, how much do you think it costs to look after a dog? And I know I always answer that question around $1,500 to $2,000 a year. When you take in the vet visits, the inoculations they need, when you take in the food, the grooming, whatever, all the bits. It's a lot of money. Having a pet is not a cheap thing these days. So, but having said all of that, my heart seriously goes out to Robin and Lou, and I know you've got other puppies that are aging and you may lose soon, so it's going to be a tough time. And it just is what it is, right? If I can go back to that. All right, so now I had a really interesting question come in last night. And the question came from a viewer, and I have no idea what age the viewer was. Or if the viewer told me, I cannot remember. I think that would be fair enough. However, this was the heart-breaking story. Her mum, I believe, her mum got cancer of some sort. And you can imagine the terror that went through the whole family on this. And then miraculously, she was cleared of cancer. And you can imagine the joy of that. So already we got a roller coaster. You got the terror of hearing about the prediction or the diagnosis, and then of course going through the treatments, and then you've got the joy of hearing that she was clear. So far the story is understandable. But what I heard from this viewer was the mother, having escaped the cancer, decided to go back to smoking. And I have one very angry viewer. Very angry. And in a way, understandably so. How could the mother do that to herself and her family? And I'm certain there are a lot of you sucking breath and totally aware of the pain that that's causing everybody around the mother. There is part of me that understands that. And there's a part of me that goes, she is not unaware of it either. Therefore, this is a choice she is making, and I think the question would be, why is she making that choice? And the answer probably is she doesn't know how to cope without them, and boy, do I relate to that. She doesn't know how to cope without them. I don't know how long this mother smoked for, but I smoked from 16 all the way through to 65. And I smoked well. I tried everything, as some of you know, I tried everything that ever was produced to stop me from smoking. From pills to patches to gizmos where you had a cigarette packet that closed itself and only opened once every half an hour or three-quarters of an hour or every hour. I tried everything, and I didn't quit. I had some of the best people around me, and that would be, people like Benji, and who's a health person, and all sorts of things, who never ever made me feel that I'd let them down. And I want to say that for this person who wrote to me. If I think about what Benji, and I want to use Benji as an example because so many people know Benji. You know, Benji would regularly say to me, gosh, Mum, because that's what he calls me, gosh, Mum, I really wish you could find it in your heart to quit, or in your body, you know, to quit. And is there anything I can do to help you? He'd always ask me that. And I go, no, Benj, I know what I'm doing is wrong, and I still choose to do it. All right, and I was very honest about it. And so I was aware that I enjoyed smoking. I mean, that's what I said to myself. But really, you know, smoking is a coping mechanism. I don't know what to do, so I think I'll go out and have a cigarette. I really need to stop and rest, so I think I'll go out and have a cigarette. And if I think about all the things I used to say to myself, there's part of me that understands this mother. Gosh, I dodged the bullet. I'm going to go out and have a cigarette and celebrate. You know, I can understand this. I know it's not understandable to people who don't smoke, but as an ex-smoker, I understand it. And I can tell you something else as an ex-smoker. Hating your mother because she's doing this is going to make you ill. You, the hater, is going to make you ill. And I'm going to talk about the child now rather than the mother, because the truth is the mother is an adult and gets to choose what she does with her life. And that includes shortening it by smoking, if that's what she chooses to do. Now, I know that you're all saying to me, but Sal, she affects everybody else. I understand that. I understand that totally. So, I'm going to remind everybody the technique that I use when people say to me, gosh, Sal, how do you do that every day? How do you listen to everybody's sad stories or, you know, pain and not take it in? Right? How many of you have written and asked me that question? How do you not get affected by all the negativity that probably arrives in my inbox? And by the way, on most days does. And the answer is, I read it for what it is. Somebody else's pain, not mine. Does that make sense? It's somebody else's pain. Now, I can feel sorry for them, and I can feel compassion for them, but I do not have to take on the pain. I do not have to suffer because of somebody else's inability to put down that filter. Now that probably sounds pretty harsh, but it's not what I mean. It's what I've had to teach myself to do. So let me talk to the daughter here, at whatever age the daughter is, and that's difficult for me because depending on the age I will word this differently, but I'm just going to try and do it in a general way. What's your job now that your mother's made this decision? Your job is to ask yourself, if you knew your mother was only going to be around for another month, would you love her to pieces, regardless of her choices? And the reason I ask you that is because even though I smoked, even though I was shortening my life, even though, you know, I can go on like this forever, do you understand? I had incredible non-smoking friends who adored me, who could see past my weakness and my inability to cope. Because they loved me that much. And so I would ask any of you who are falling into this trap, and I call it ruler of the universe, I know better, so you should do what I tell you. Don't do that to people. If you love people, just love them. And as I have said time and time before, when I start finding myself judging people I believe to be my friends, when I start thinking I know how to live their life better than they do, I have to look at whether this person is still a friend. Or I have to say what I have to say and then move past that. And sometimes I will say to people I know, you're not going to like this, but I need to just tell you I think your behavior sucks because A, B, and C, but I know that's just my judgment. And I will try and get over that. You see, that's about as honest as I can be. I don't have the right to tell anybody how to live their life. I used to think I did. So I would say to the daughter, get yourself some help, if necessary, or read books on codependency, because what you're actually asking is for your mother to change her behavior so you will feel better. And when we live our life through other people, or if the actions of other people are the only way that we're going to be happy, that's called codependent. So I've quoted Melanie Beattie before, and I will quote her again. She wrote an unbelievable book called Codependent No More, and she taught me a lot of techniques for putting down that filter where you hear something but you don't take it in. And I would wish nothing more for this daughter's mother than that her daughter could forgive her for her inadequacy or her suffering, her internal pain, and love her for whatever number of months or years she may have left. Because quite honestly, you don't know that your mother isn't going to be dead within 2 months. Or your friend, or your sibling, you know what I mean? I say this to people that we really don't know. And you don't know that you're not going to be either. And if I said to you, I'd like you to spend the last months of your life being angry at your mother, you would not want that. If you knew you only had a couple of months to live, I think you would want to spend it loving your mum to bits. And forgiving her. So what you need to concentrate is on how to forgive, and there are lots of good things on the internet on forgiveness. Look up some stuff on codependency. And as I said, check out anything to do with Melanie Beattie. I just think Melody just writes some incredible stuff on, really easy to read, and gives lots. What I love about the way she writes is she gives lots of examples. So it's not just theory, it's practical stuff. And I really like that when I was trying to learn how to do this. And I would also remind you that for me, the big red flag that goes up for me is when I start resenting somebody for their behavior. When I start resenting somebody for their behavior, it's time for me to do something with me, not with them. It means that they have already pushed me too far, and now I am blaming them for the way I feel. That means it's time for me to be proactive. It's time for me to take a step to defend myself, because obviously this is affecting my life. So I would ask you all to please take a moment and think who it is in your life that you have been judging. Take a moment, think about who it is in your life that you want to have them change their behaviors. And remember, it's their life. I'm going to have lunch on Saturday with a very dear friend of mine who was one of the first people I met when I came to Canada all those many years ago, back in '86. And he's a non-smoker, and he has all his life, hoped that I would stop smoking. But you know something? He was always a friend. And I love him for that. Now, we have had times where he's been very frustrated with me and told me so. But somewhere he has always forgiven me for my moments of weakness. And we still remain friends all these many, many years later. And I'm very grateful for that. So, dear viewer, if you can, get to the broadcasts and let's talk about it openly and see if we can give you some tools. Or if you prefer, do some work on your own. If you've got an ability to get some help with this, get it. Because I would hate to think of you spending the last few days or years, months, whatever it may be, of your mom's life angry at her. Okay, I'm sending you a big hug because, I know it must be very, very painful. But now it's time for you to work on you, not on your mom. And you need to encourage, if you can, the family to do the same thing. I'd like you to hear my words and be the messenger of them to your family, whoever else is angry at her. Don't hate her. Love her. And if you think about it, when I gave up smoking, eventually, it was for the love of something rather than the hate of something. I didn't do it because I was told, Sal, you can't visit our new house in Juliana if you're still smoking. I did it because I didn't want to go to the new house and meet Juliana for the first time smoking. I did it for love of Benji, Judy, and the family. This is dear Mama Sal, wishing you all understanding. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.